Hey guys, it's Mike, another King Arthur Legends Rise video. We're playing a little catch up after vacation, going through some of the patch notes all the way and just kind of looking at the state of the game. So going back to when they actually talked about launching Aqua Guinevere here, and then kind of going through some of the other updates that came to the game and just kind of pointing out the notables. Now these have actually been in the game for 2 weeks, but there is actually some patch notes for the upcoming update tomorrow, so we'll go through that as well. But starting out here, this is where they're launching Aqua Guinevere and the raid up summons, just saying that she's only going to be available through raid ups. Kind of got the standard update stuff with the different events that were coming into the game that pretty much are over now, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, as well as the different packages that were attached to the launch of Aqua Guinevere. Some improvements, they did add Hild into the list of champions for special summons, so probably going to be a champion that hits your wish list if you do not have her on Chivalry level minimum 5, but probably 6. She picks up a lot of extra attack on 6. I think she gets 15% resistance, which goes to her attack power, as well as I think 10% attack, which effectively is almost 25% extra attack. So she's going to do a lot more damage there on Chivalry level 6. So if you don't have a Hild at Chivalry level 6, I'd definitely consider bringing her to your wish list until you get her there. It also looks like they had some bug fixes. So that sums up the notables of the patch that came in 2 weeks ago. As far as that, we got the new champion and then kind of some standard stuff. From there, we have the patch details and kind of going through them again and then picking up known issues. I'm assuming there was a couple things that popped up along the way where they're talking about urgent maintenance and stuff. We did get some goodies in the inbox, which was kind of nice. Just kind of working through some of those urgent fixes. And then on 7/15, there was a privacy policy revision going on there, as well as on the 16th, a web shop maintenance. I'm not sure what that entailed, but that pretty much gets us caught up here. So on 7/22 tomorrow, although by the time this launches, it might be later today, we're going to be doing the update maintenance. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what Netmarble has in store for us on the update. And that pretty much gets us caught up to date, except for the update maintenance, which is honestly just a tease. It's just saying that there is a schedule for update tomorrow during reset, which I think we already knew, but they are still working on the game, which I guess is pretty nice. But we won't get any details about this update usually until hours before it, if not during the update itself. So we get communication that there's going to be an update, but we're just left to speculate as to what it's going to be. And then it does have this notice here regarding the instructions on how to play on PC if you want to do that. I would highly recommend it. With my old eyeballs, it's a lot easier for me to see the game on PC than it is on my little bitty phone, but the phone does work out in the mobile sense. As far as the updates going on in the game, there hasn't been anything since the 24th there. So let's jump over to their YouTube channel and see if they have anything added over there. So over on the YouTube channel, they do have the highlight video for our goofy Aqua Guinevere over here in her bikini for some reason, as well as Lagertha and Revenant Merlin. So they haven't really posted anything new. I'd like to see another one of these videos that came up to kind of discuss the roadmap a little bit. I want to say this came out, yeah, it was 2 months ago. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see these come out maybe once a month. Even in a shorter scale, just kind of talk about where they're moving, or at least once every quarter, which that might be their schedule, because a quarter would be 3 months, so maybe there's one coming just to kind of see how we're moving forward with stuff. But it, just kind of keeps the community informed on what's happening. I do think it's a little bit tough, like a day before reset, we don't know what's happening, like whether we're getting a new champion or all this other stuff. I feel communication could be a little better in that space. But it does build anticipation, and we'll be sitting here waiting to see what happens. So taking a closer look at Aqua Guinevere, I don't think I'm alone in the sentiment. As you go through these comments down on this video, like she's completely out of place. She doesn't fit in the game. I think the aesthetics was a big miss. I think that it's corny, it's cheesy, it's silly. And I mean, at the end of the day, it just feels like an excuse to put a girl in a bikini in the game for some reason. I think there's a lot of ways they could have done similar things and at least kept it on theme with some sort of medieval version of something and just kind of, moved in that direction. But ultimately, I think this was a pretty big miss for the community. I don't think people like it. The only thing that I do, looking at her kit, I think she does have a pretty good single target damage, which is, pretty incredible. If we take a closer look at her kit, again, she's being launched into the game with only the Frost Relic. We had the Lagartha came in with only Frost, and then Revenant Merlin, I think, was only Storm. I would assume at some point they're going to bring these relics into the game, hopefully in a fun and different way that can kind of be thought through. I kind of feel like maybe they were listening to the community a little bit regarding not bringing new characters into the game at a fast enough pace, and maybe these relics weren't available or ready quite yet, and so they decided to launch them with their base relic just to get them in the game and kind of, you know, cater to what the community is wanting. If that's the case, I think it's a good move. I think it strategically makes sense. Although obviously at some point these guys would start to come into the game as well and kind of finish out those characters. So that would be it's kind of something to keep an eye on, just see what they do with those moving forward. If we take a look at Aqua Guinevere here with her huge popsicle and her blow-up duck, with her first passive skill at the start of battle, 100% chance to gain Dazzling Charm for 3 turns. This is going to be when everything is completely maxed out, going through the index here. Dazzling Charm is going to be hit accuracy, attack, and critical strike or crit rate up 50%, 25, and 45 respectively. So that's going to be a pretty big win. That is going to be just on her though. So that's going to be something she's granting to just herself. Secondly, she's going to do a 100% chance to grant each Hound's favorite ally attack gauge decrease immunity for 2 turns, just making sure that they're not getting manipulated with the attack gauge, which is going to be pretty good for the Hound's favored allies. I mean, that's Turin. I'm trying to think of other Hound's favorite allies that are heavily used. It's not really a faction that has a lot of folks coming through it, so it is what it is. On the passive 2, when attacking, if you have protection, deal additional damage to target 1 time, damage 60% of attack. Also, 100% chance to gain crit damage increase for 2 turns. So the protection would be somebody that's casting shields on yourself or barriers, something like that. So running her along a Brennan or even a regular Guinevere potentially could be a great win in getting that going. Escort, I think, is Sigrun does the escort. I'm trying to remember some of these other ones. I feel like everybody's got their own ability. But running her with some sort of protection on her is going to get that extra damage, although it's not super significant with 1 attack, a 60% of attack. But you do want to build her with high attack because she is a damage dealer. As we move on to her passive 3 here, there's a 100% chance for this to trigger when an ally is hit with a 2-turn cooldown after you get it booked up. 100% chance to charge attack gauge of each ally by 30%. So every time an ally is hit, every 2 turns, you're going to get this 30% attack gauge charge, which is basically what Sergius does with his A3 every time now. It used to be 60%, now I think it is 30. I think they cut it in half. And then 100% independent chance to grant each Hound's favorite ally effect accuracy 2 for 2 turns. So again, if you are running her with a Hound's favor team, it's going to add some added perks in that space as well. But that attack gauge for each ally is going to be a pretty big win, just speeding your team up every other turn. One of the things I have found that is a little bit complex is in a lot of these games you have cooldowns, which basically tells you how frequently you can do your A3, A2, and A1. And here you have Vigor, which allows you to do any of these any of the time, depending on how much Vigor you have. But then also you have cooldown abilities on top of that. So it becomes a little more complex as to when certain things are happening and how they're happening, especially for a new player. It's kind of a lot to take in all at once. But I think over time it does make sense, but I think it's unnecessarily complicated. At least from my point of view. And let me know in the comments below if you disagree. Because I think the Vigor has its perks and I think it is kind of cool. But also putting cooldowns on top of that is a little bit strange. And then all of the different buffs and debuffs that have separate names and things when you're just combining 2 normal buffs or 2 normal debuffs as its own name, it becomes kind of overly saturated where you're kind of like, what does this even do anymore? You know, so it's just kind of a lot for each champion to have all that stuff going on. So currently the Frost Relic is the only relic available for her. The A1 comes in, attacks 1 enemy 3 times, so that immediately kind of stands out for anything with barriers. You got Steel Flank Pinbid, you've got regular Pinbid, anything where you're trying to get a couple extra hits in, so 3 hits, not too bad. Total damage 66%, 100% chance to remove 2 debuffs from self. So if you are going up against somebody that's putting a lot of debuffs up, that's going to be a big win. One thing to consider here is the way they label debuffs and abnormal statuses and things of that nature. This will not remove abnormal statuses. So your sleeps, your stuns, I think your heal disruption, all that Steel Flank Pinvid's putting on is not, I don't think it's considered a debuff, which is why Anya can't remove it and those other folks that do debuff removal. So that's not going to be something that's effective for that, but it will bring your attack down and your defense down and those kind of things off of your champion. Speed down, all those will be coming off of Aqua Guinevere over here. I can't even say her name. Like, look at this relic. It's just silly. Just silly. Anyways, so that is just something to consider with that. But that can be pretty strong, even though it is only affecting herself. As we move over to her A2, she attacks all enemies, so nice AoE ability. Total damage 156% after it's completely booked up, and 100% chance to gain attack increase 2 for 1 turn. So that's going to be just on herself, so that when she does her next attack, she can do it a little heavier. I don't know that it makes sense to run her A2 because you're probably going to want to get attack increase from somebody else's buff that they're placing on her and then run her A3 specifically. This attacks one enemy 2 times, total damage 300%. And if you have protection, deals an additional damage 1 time of 120%. So that's going to be a very big hit, especially if you're running her with somebody putting shields and barriers up that are going to give her that protection that allows her to get that extra hit. She's going to smack pretty hard. Now, putting that up against Caliburn Arthur, who's also a fantastic single target damage dealer. On his A2, he's only doing 204% damage with the first 3 hits. But every other turn when he is doing the Stygian aura, that happens every other turn, as long as a debuff is on the enemy, which does become a little bit of a challenge, he does attack an additional 5 times, doing an additional 215% on top of it, while ignoring defense. So as a single target damage dealer, I think he's still going to be significantly better than she is, although she's able to run that A3 with 300%. Every single turn, not every other turn, and it doesn't require that you have a debuff on the target. Although if you want her to get that extra hit, she does need to have a barrier or a protection on her. But I would say that if you set up the team around her to give her that extra protection, she's going to do probably a comparable amount of damage as Caliburn Arthur. Now, me personally, I just like the way he fits into the game better. I like his aesthetic better. I like everything about him better. So I will probably continue to go with Caliburn Arthur. But as we know, in Hall of Conquerors, having extra single target damage dealers does go a long way because you can only use him on one of the 3 bosses. So you do need somebody to go for the other 2. As we move over to her Chivalries, the first 5 Chivalries, again, are going to open up her entire kit. And then she starts moving into stats. I think this seems to be the direction they're moving forward with, and I like it. Because once you do have 5 Chivalries of a copy of a character, they're going to be completely opened up, and then it's just a matter of doing extra damage or making extra durability. I think it works out pretty well. On her first Chivalry here, when using skill 2, 100% chance to inflict focus target on the select target for 2 turns and with a 3-turn cooldown. And the focus target's going to be evasion rate down and crit or strike down for 20%. And then with this, there's also the 100% chance to remove 1 buff from self when hit. So this is a debuff she's landing on a target, and then every time your allies hit that target, that target's going to lose a buff. This to me screams Wiscalag. As far as the evasion rate down, as well as removing a buff every time one of your allies is attacking Wiscalag. It's going to help keep those buffs under wrap where you can do damage over time. So that could be a good spot for her once you get that first Chivalry. On the second Chivalry here, the cool Undertow gets upgraded to when an ally is hit, and that's going to be where she does her attack gauge manipulation, charging it every 30% every 2 turns, and then also granting the effect accuracy for your Hound's favorite allies. So that's going to be a pretty big one. At the start of battle for her Chivalry 3, 100% chance to inflict Hot Thirst on each enemy for 2 turns. And Hot Thirst is when using a skill that increases allies' attack gauge charge, it's actually going to reduce it by 25%. And again, this is a debuff you're landing, so when the enemy tries to do something like that, it's going to put that across to their allies, not your allies. 100% independent chance to inflict attack decrease down, as well as 100% chance, and that's for 2 turns, which is actually pretty good. 100% chance to inflict attack gauge disruption on each ally for 2 turns as well. I think the Chivalry 4 is where she starts to kind of help herself out, because she's going to be putting the shield on herself immediately before attacking. If you do not have protection, 100% chance to gain shield 150% of Aqua Guinevere's attack for 2 turns, and that cooldown's 3 turns. So theoretically, this is going to put that shield up. If she doesn't take enough damage, it'll be there for 2 turns in a row, triggering that extra hit on her A3, doing that extra damage, which is going to be pretty solid. So the Chivalry level 4 is going to be a big one for her as far as getting extra damage. And then last but not least, on Chivalry level 5, Beach Heat skill enhancement strengthens to Burning Charm, from Burning Charm to Dazzling Charm, which lasts for the rest of the battle. So Burning Charm being hit accuracy is at 45%, Dazzling Charm getting that 45% plus 25% attack, and crit strike 50%. So that's going to be a pretty big win as well. So getting her to Chivalry level 5 is going to make her substantially better. And then from there you gain attack and you just gain stats as you move forward after that. But all in all, I do think Aqua Guinevere is a great champion as far as the skills she brings to the table. I think the aesthetics themselves are a big miss. I personally would prefer if they just went and reskinned her completely and got rid of all the silly summer bikini blow up duck, all of it. Like, just start from scratch, do something that at least is on theme for King Arthur. I think it would be kind of a bigger win. I do feel if they continue down this path of cheese, it's probably going to detract your player base and you're probably going to lose players, just because I think that it's just silly. At the end of the day, I am a fan of bringing in like very rare champions, or like special event champions that only happen once a year or once every so often. And I think that's kind of, and making them fun champions within the realm of the game, I think is actually pretty cool as well. But this is just way out of left field, and I think a big miss. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I mean, maybe there's some folks out there that really like it and just kind of like how it's a fun twist on the game. It just doesn't speak to me personally. But that's about what I got for you today. I will be sitting tight waiting for the Discord to open up and see what we got coming in for the update tomorrow. Hopefully it launches before the update tomorrow. But I am going to jump in the account and kind of get some other stuff going on and try to play catch up since the vacation. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me all the way to the end. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do so. It means the world to me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.